weekend, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the third day of October in the year 2022. Sure hope you're enjoying your Monday, no matter where it is you are in the country. And if you, like me, are a Mets fan, today has been miserable. I mean, there's just no other way about it. I'm going to start off a little bit untraditionally today because this weekend was very painful for Met fans. It really and truly was. We don't talk about sports that often, but I have to. I have to get a little bit off my chest today before I get into the news. 3 games in Atlanta, 3 horrendous losses for the Mets. Starting out with Jacob deGrom on Friday night, getting shellacked. Same thing, Max Scherzer, $43.3 million salary that he makes and made this year. And then Chris Bassett last night. And then, of course, except for Jeff McNeil, every single hitter decided to take the weekend off. And now, with 3 games to go, the Atlanta Braves are in first place by 2 games. They're going to win the division. And even though the Mets spent almost every day of this season in first place, they will end it in second. And you know what? People are saying, just be happy the Mets made the playoffs. It's just too much of this. It happens every single year. People forget this happened last year, where the Mets had a 7.5 game lead against over the Braves, and the Braves overtook them. Except last year, they didn't even make the playoffs. That's the only difference. It happened again this year. Happened in 2007 with the collapse, 2008, 2009, 2016, 1987, 1989, 1990. I mean, just go on and on. I'm not going to spend too much time about this, but if you're a Mets fan and if you're happy today, something's wrong with you because this is just miserable. It's horrible to have to go through this. I like the years when they're bad because I don't care. Now, I watched every game this year just about, and now they've gone down to becoming almost unwatchable right when it matters the most. And for the Yankee fans out there, what a shame that Aaron Judge did not get his 60-second home run at Yankee Stadium. They're off to Texas now, a very strange place for an AL East team to finish the season, but that's where they are going. And he's got a couple of chances to break Roger Maris's record there in Texas. But I can't imagine there are too many happy Yankee fans either because they didn't play well against the Baltimore Orioles. And a lot of people spent a lot of money to get those tickets with the hopes of seeing Judge hit number 62 at the new Yankee Stadium. And that, of course, didn't happen either over the course of this past weekend. So if you're a baseball fan, a miserable, awful weekend to go along with the horrible weather, too. Of course, a little different story. The Jets and Giants both win on Sunday, but it's still early in the football season, so there's plenty of time for the Giants and the Jets to get back to regular form and begin to start to lose again. But let's get back to the reason why most of us are here tonight, and that is this week's front page. As you can see, it is up on the left-hand side of your screen. 3 things on the front page. A Kearney man has been charged with manslaughter in the stabbing death of 34-year-old Corey McFadden. It's a very tragic situation, what happened to Corey. And they got these 2 guys who they arrested. I'm not even going to mention his name, either one of them, because it's not worth it. The victim here is Corey McFadden, and his the situation that matters, and that he lost his life in such a tragic way. But this guy who they arrested and charged with manslaughter, he's in the blotter, too, this week for a completely unrelated crime. And unfortunately, they didn't I guess he didn't get taken into custody until after he was able to commit or allegedly commit this homicide. And it's just a horrible situation all around that 3 young lives have been changed forever. 1 is gone, and 2 others will be behind bars probably for a long time if convicted. And, my heart goes out to the McFadden family that they had to deal with such a terrible tragedy a couple of weeks ago. But the good news is that the 2 people who were allegedly responsible for Corey's death are behind bars right now, and the state of New Jersey, to the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, is going to ask the court not to release either one of them throughout their trials so that they will not get a bond. We'll see what happens with that One is scheduled tomorrow, and the other is scheduled for Wednesday. So we don't know at the time of this broadcast whether or not they'll be getting bail, but I would certainly hope that there would be no judge who would give them bail at this point in time, considering that they're both involved with homicide. On the other side of the top of the front page, you see Mayor Santos and Anna Marie Latushko. She, of course, Anna Marie is the president of the Kearney chapter of Unico. Mayor Al Santos of Kearney. They were among hundreds who attended Pathways to Independence's annual walkathon a weekend and a half or 2 weekends ago, and they had a tricky tray as well. So this is their biggest fundraiser of the year for Pathways to Independence. They're government funded, but it doesn't pay for everything. So they rely on the generosity of people. And the walkathon and Tricky Tray raises a significant amount of money for the Pathways to Independence program, which does so many wonderful things for developmentally disabled adults. In this state and many other states, once you turn 18, graduate high school, it's like you're on your own here. But for many young adults who would have no other place to turn, Pathways has been here for decades, and they make sure that people get the proper training and jobs and things of that nature. So congratulations to Alvin Cox, the executive director, for pulling off yet another phenomenal fundraiser, and Addie Boyd, who is on the board and who is partly responsible for pulling the Tricky Tray and the walkathon together, and all the others of the Board of Trustees of the Advisory Board at Pathways to Independence. Another job well done. On the bottom of the front page, Mayor Michael Milham of Belleville has a lawsuit against him from a zoning inspector in the township, but NJ.com ran the story with a very misleading headline that said that he lied to the Attorney General to avoid the suit or some other nonsense. So Mayor Milham is considering a defamation suit against the powers that be at NJ.com and the Star Ledger. And we reached out to them. They did not reply for comment. We kind of expected that would happen since there's potential litigation involved here. But one thing Mayor Michael Milham is not afraid of is fighting for what he believes in. And if that means he will not, if he doesn't get an apology from the Star Ledger, NJ.com, and the folks at NJAM, New Jersey Advanced Media, he may very well file a defamation suit against them for the headline that they wrote. Read the story, read the headline. You'll see that without a doubt, the headline was extremely misleading, and it's unfortunate because I don't know. I just never understood the whole point of misleading the public when it comes to a reality that you read about. If there's something in the headline and then you read the story and there's nothing there about what the headline says, what the hell is the point? And that this happens. So check it out when you can on the front page of this week's edition of The Observer. The Hudson County Sheriff's Office had a sweep for warrants, and 34 people were arrested, and two of them. I'm jumping ahead of here. This is the Mahan story. The female prison in Central Jersey. 2 corrections officers of the 14 who were arrested in that terrible video. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, look it up on YouTube, where inmates were savagely beaten during extractions when they were all complying. Well, 2 of the COs are from our readership area. They've been indicted in relation to those awful crimes at that prison, which has since, of course, closed. So, or is about to be closed. I forget exactly what it is. This land here that you see is the old school number 1 in Lyndhurst, yet it's in Belleville. It still sits vacant, and it may not be vacant for much longer, but it's been that way for a decade when they knocked down the old building. Ron Lear has a story about that and why it's taken so long to get the property developed. Take a look at that. This is what I mentioned before. 33 men were arrested on a warrant sweep by the Hudson County Sheriff's Office. 4 of those who were arrested are from the Observer's readership area. When warrants are issued, a lot of times they go unheeded. So this was a big sweep from Sheriff Shillari, Frank Shillari, and a good number of people were hauled in to answer to their charges, which they were basically avoiding One of the people is a recognizable name because he's appeared in the Lyndhurst police blotter most recently. There will be a lane closure situation until the 15th of November on the Newark Jersey City Turnpike over by where it merges into Route 7. That will be in effect till the 15th, and it's going to be a nightmare in middays. So if you travel to and from Jersey City to get to Kearney, Harrison, East Newark, Belleville, Lyndhurst, North Arlington, beyond, be prepared. It just seems like it's a never-ending cycle with the traffic and with the construction in the area. 3 local Eagle Scouts from Troop Number 305, St. Stephen's, were honored at the Court of Honor a couple of weekends ago at St. Stephen's Church. We have their stories, what they did during their presentations and their projects and things of that nature, so check that out when you get a chance. Now, if you have items that need to be shredded, the Hudson County Incinerator Authority has a day coming up in West Hudson Park. It's this Saturday where you can bring documents, and then e-waste on the 5th day of November over at Red Bull Arena. So this is a great program that the Hudson County Incinerator Authority does every year. Read the ad. There's limitations onto how much you can bring and what you can bring and what you shouldn't bring. But every year they do this, and it's a great service to the county. Not every county does this. On Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 8th day of October, the town of Harrison will unveil its statue, the soccer statue, finally. So the whole day's planned. It's over by the library park. Check it out on page number 8. And if you are soccerly inclined, I don't know if soccerly is a word, you might want to go by because there's going to be a lot of well-known soccer faces there, including Tab Ramos, Tony Miola, and John Hartz. Tim Wagner has a police blotter this week, and would you believe the same family that was in last week's blotter is back in it again, making it 18 times since the 11th day of September this year that the Kearney Police Department has approached this home. Not sure where it is, don't want to know, but 18 calls, and it's usually involving a brother and a sister. Last week, the sister was arrested. This week, the brother was arrested, and it's usually involving a restraining order. It's absolutely remarkable, terrible domestic situation there. But Captain Tim Wagner, as he does every single week, brings that to you in the blotter. Our great sports reporter, Jason Bernstein, has 3 stories this week, including one about the Belleville soccer team, the county tournaments for soccer, which supposedly got underway last week, but there was the weather and all sorts of rescheduling and things like that, and a bunch of snafus. And this Lyndhurst High School sophomore is the athlete of the week this week. He had 5 touchdowns in a game recently. 5 touchdowns. One person. 5 touchdowns. He's a captain, and he's a sophomore. Can you imagine how good this kid is going to be as he continues to grow? He's still not done growing. He's got a couple more years to go. We may be looking at the next Division I football player coming out of this area. I speak of that with no clue whether that's the case. But when you see somebody written about as an athlete of the week at the age of basically, 14 or 15, whatever he is as a sophomore, this kid's got a great future ahead of him. So check that out in this week's sports section. We have 2 classified pages this week, including plenty of rentals and help wanted. So if you need a job or a place to live, we'll probably have something for you. So I do hope you will check that out. And don't forget, remind people that classifieds are still going. We really think that it's important to use the classified over something like Craigslist. And again, you're going to think this is like a money thing, and I'm sure, there's something to that. But when you put classifieds in our newspaper as opposed to Craigslist, you almost always get a legitimate call on the other end. A lot of times, I've posted things on Craigslist over the years. You get crank calls, people who are not really interested in your whatever it is you're selling or offering. But very rarely with our classified section does shenanigans like that take place. In fact, we often get calls from people who are renting their apartments, from people who take out an ad for 3 weeks, But after the first week, say, please take out the ad because I already rented. And not only that, sometimes it happens the very first day before the paper even hits the streets when we put the e-edition up on Monday nights or Monday afternoons at around 4 o'clock. People start getting calls right away for the apartments and people looking for jobs and stuff like that. Nothing beats an Observer Classified. And yeah, of course I'm biased, but it's the truth. And it's not something you can get when you put something on Craigslist. You know you're going to get some legitimate phone calls and traffic from our readership in print. And don't forget, everything we have goes online too. So you may get calls from England or Australia or Japan, Taiwan. You never know. And there's a lot of people who do read this newspaper all across the globe. It is 17 minutes past the hour. Canessa here with you on this Monday evening. That's going to do it for this edition of the Observer Live. I want to thank each and every one of you for logging on and joining me tonight here. If anything happens during the course of the week, of course, we will join you live. But if not, we will be back here 1 week from tonight with another edition of the Observer Live. So from the newsroom of the Observer and theobserver.com, it's Kevin Canessa signing off for now. Thanks for watching. And I hope to see you back here again very, very soon. And when I see you next time, will the Mets season be over? Probably. Good night, everybody.